everybody, welcome. It is the Meeple Syrup Show. It is I, Sen, and up there is
Hafiz.
Hey, and maybe we're not lagging today. I don't know. And
Yep,
over there is our special guest. Who's our special guest today?
Oh, we got the best. We got Scott, who's going to be joining us from Courlander Games. We're going to be talking about sports games for today.
Yes. So welcome, Scott. It is very nice to meet you. And before we get started, so Scorelander Games is like Scott S. and Courlander is your last name, which you somehow managed to amalgamate into Scorelander Games, which is sort of a cross between Score for like sports stuff and then Zoolander because, Blue Steel, right?
Yeah, well, and
Fantastic.
actually, I used to be a substitute teacher, and there's
Yeah.
a time at which when I would like introduce myself, I'd be like, "Hello, I'm Mr. Courlander. That's core like an apple core, lander like Zoolander," and that worked for a while. But now kids don't know that movie.
Right? I laugh at my own references so much, and the students just don't get it.
Just blank
No, they
faces.
just don't get it. But today it's actually funny. I was teaching about I'm a psychology professor, so I was teaching about egocentrism in adolescence, and I was trying to come up with an example. And I usually talk about like old TV shows that I like Glee, which actually isn't that old. But anyways, I said, oh, you'd get this. What if I said giving main character energy? And all the class was like, yes, I understand what you're saying. Like that's what egocentrism means. Yes, they give main character energy. So I have to like update my vernacular and my references all the time, and it's painful because I have things that I like. But what's remarkable is that what's old is new again, and I can use like Friends references, and like all the
Oh yeah,
students get
it
it
could
because
definitely get hot with Gen Z
Friends,
for a little bit there.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? So it's pretty funny. And anytime I say the numbers 6 and or 7, even the college students, like they go nutty too. So
Yep.
anyways, it's pretty funny. Hey, welcome, Deadpan.
Is it though?
I know it's not fun. It's not good. It's just weird. I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I also don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so Scott's here to talk about sports games. But before we talk about sports games and all the things that Hafiz wants to talk about with that, Scott, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How you got
Yeah,
into
sure.
gaming, how you got specifically into game design, and why sports games?
Yeah, so it's sort of, I guess, a lot of different aspects of my life, my personality, just sort of intersecting. So I'm like you. I'm a teacher. I teach seventh grade language arts, um, and but it was sort of a weird long trail to get there. I came out of college and I studied acting in New York for a while, and I tried to be an actor for a while, but at the time, I was also writing. I was writing plays, and I wrote a parody of just sort of the fantasy genre called Medieval Storyland. And I'm trying to remember exactly the context that made him say this. But my brother-in-law had either read the script or something, and he was like, "Oh man, you should make a board game out of this." And it was just like a really non sequitur comment because like we were the kind of people who would like maybe occasionally get together to play Risk or something. But I don't know what made him say that, but something clicked for me. And I was like, wait a minute. No, I could make this into a board game. And that sort of got me messing around with I just like bought a whole bunch of miniatures from a bunch of different like RPGs, and I made a map and I stained it to make it look old, and within a week I had a game, and a lot of the mechanics were pretty Ameritrashy, as one might say, but it that sort of launched me in that direction. uh, and I mean, I wasn't new to games. Like I grew up playing lots of games, and probably more, what we would probably consider more Ameritrashy games, Axes and Allies, stuff like that. I was real into Magic when I was a kid, and then rediscovered it in my adulthood. So I had that sort of paradigm bouncing around in my head. And I'm also a big baseball fan, which is sort of the other tangent that comes in. And I guess it sort of coincides a little bit because I'm deep into fantasy baseball. and specifically into like keeper leagues, where and when I'm in one very advanced one. Actually, right now, I'm technically on the clock to pick a minor leaguer. We're doing a minor league draft this week. We're around five. We're into like the 380th best minor leaguer in baseball. It's very deep and the contracts and stuff. Um, but it sort of scratches that same gaming itch
Hmm.
that game design does and playing games does. Um, and so I made this little game based on my play, and it wasn't really anything. I mean, it was very playable. It was fine, um, but really, what I wanted was to find a way because this was also, like I said, the same time I was getting back into Magic. Um, my dad's also a big, or I should say, was a big baseball fan, and I was trying to get him to see how putting together a Magic the Gathering deck it was the sort of the same uh, like
It is.
the same itch is putting together like a baseball team, a fancy baseball team. And I was like, it's sort of the same thing. You want pieces that are good, but they're also like good for their cost is
Hmm.
values, and you're trying to put together things that like the pieces fit together and complement each other, and it. Yeah, I mean, he was not into like deep fantasy like that or anything, so it
Yeah.
was like not his deal. I was like, God, if I could just make a game that showed him how they're the same thing, that would be cool, and then he would get it. And that was the sort of germ of eventually what ended up being our first game that we published, which is a card game, which some people have sort of jokingly called Baseball the Gathering, uh, and and that was Bat Flip, which was Scorelander Games' first published game. It was the first design I got through that I actually felt uh, was worth other people playing. And my buddy David Class and I've known him since those Axes and Allies days. He and I founded the company together. He just sort of believed in me as a designer and also as a good buddy. And we made that first game, kickstarted it, and that was sort of the origin of our company. And then since then, we've gone on to make Batflip Dynasty. We commissioned a game and published it called Football U, which we are in the process of having manufactured as we speak. Kickstarted in the fall, and hopefully in the future, we're moving towards making some non-sports games to get out of our niche because it's a limited niche, but we're proud of what we've done in it for now.
Right. Although, I mean, like if you read the newspaper where they talk about, the Green Bay Packers playing Catan at, whatever after practice, or I can't remember which exact team it was, but I think it was the Packers. It might have been. And then what we were talking about offline when Hafiz was saying, yeah, the analytics team for Major League Baseball really likes bat flip, and I think there is an intrinsic love of stats
Mm,
and like
agreed.
It's
nerding out. Like I
it's
describe
D&D for jocks is essentially what it
that's
is,
exactly what I call fantasy baseball. Like
right?
people like,
Yeah.
what's the attraction? I say, well, do you like D&D? They're like, yeah, well, it's D&D for jocks. And I guess D&D is fantasy draft sports for nerds, I
Yeah,
guess.
there you go.
Right?
Yeah, well,
And there's a lot
I
of
think
crossover.
yeah, I think in both of them, there's a little bit of sort of wish casting yourself
Mm.
into the
Hmm.
hero. Like if I'm imagining like, oh man, Aaron Judge is mine. It's not that different than like, oh man, I've got this great barbarian. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
both.
That's fascinating too, right? Because and even in like video games, like if we're talking say like FIFA soccer or something like that, there are a lot of people who would rather play like Winning 11, which
Mm,
is like a manager game, right? And there are people who will play Blood Bowl, which is like the miniatures football fantasy like fantasy creature football. It's not fantasy football, but then there's also like Blood Bowl Manager, which is actually a really cool game about the team management part of it and running through the season like that. My son is addicted to like all the sports games on the PlayStation, and he really, really enjoys playing the career modes or the team managing modes. Almost, I don't know if more than, but as much as he's looking at going into sports broadcasting. I don't know what he's going to do. Who knows? He's 18. The world's his oyster, right? But he's like, yeah, this is really cool. He likes all the stats. He likes nerding out about the stats. He likes the drafting and all that kind of stuff. Um, and there is like a real analog between that and the competitiveness of, hoping that when you crack a pack, of magic cards, you get that card. And then because we often played sealed booster draft, because
Mm.
I find that the most fun way to play magic is just
I
like,
think that's probably accurate.
yeah, let's just buy a box and we'll draft all of the boosters, and then we have like unlimited land that you can get, right? Because everybody who plays Magic has like 6 billion planes, and so it's just a really cool way because you get to like see the cards go around and think about, okay, what are you evaluating this at? Oh, you passed on that really cool card that I
Yeah. What are you building? Yeah.
what color are you picking?
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like, I think you want this card. I'm going to spite draft it,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not a card that I want. I want it out of your hand. And so there's a lot to these ideas, which I think are very analogous to sports, except they're like orcs and goblins and elves,
Yeah, or even
right?
if you think of mechanic, there's overlaps, right? Like we
Of
have
course.
drafting in games, we have drafting in different leagues. You have strategy that's going on in games. You have strategy that's going on in sports. You have essentially worker placement when you think about it at points in time in one or another. And so there's so many different ways that you can take inspiration from sports because at the end of the day, we're talking about games, board
Mhm.
games, sports games. But and we were talking about this right before we hopped on. In creating a game based on a sport, the goal is not to make a simulation, it's to try and capture the best parts of it because no one wants to sit through a 3 hour simulation of well, maybe some people do 3 hour simulation of football and someone gets injured partway through the game. And so, as someone who designs games, what do you focus on when you are thinking about the feeling of a sport that you're trying to capture within a game?
That's a really great question, and it's actually something that we are really explicit with ourselves about. That and it's exactly what you said. It's that we are not trying to make a simulation, uh, and uh, and for baseball especially, there are like tons of them. And I mean, Stratomatic is the classic one, um, and there's sort of and I guess there's really just the one kind, and the problem is that most baseball games rely on chance somehow, and it's a spinner or a dice, and it's like, okay, we know this batter is this good, and so he's going to have, if he bats 333, then we know that he's going to have a 2 out of 6 chance to get a hit or something, and you can simulate it, but there's not a lot of agency there, and it's like, yeah, you can, and people do, they simulate full seasons using
Mhm.
Stratomatic, um, but we wanted something that had more agency, where it wasn't set the lineup and see what it does, but that you're actively making choices constantly. Um, and I think actually the inspiration I got was from Magic, I guess, really, and because I was trying to say, okay, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to make a card game be inspired by Magic.
Uh,
I'm pretty sure they all are.
no.
Uh, um, but really, what it was is saying, okay, what are the things that I love about these two things, and what are the overlaps? So early on, especially because of my, I love fantasy baseball and like dealing with contracts and stuff. I tried to have an economic component in our first game, where sort of like how you build your board in Magic. you would build your team as you play with it.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and you would amass resources over the course of the game. And the more resources you had, then you could afford bigger, better players as the game went on. But the problem that became like really apparent really fast is that you can't play a baseball game with like one guy. And so unless you had like a beginning team to start with, um, you weren't able to play baseball. And so what we wound up doing is realizing that the whole economic thing, contract, and all that stuff, uh, it needed its own game. That was
Hmm.
you can't simulate a game of baseball and simulate running a team in the same game. And so then we say, okay, what in a game of baseball, what are the parts that are interesting? And obviously, making your lineup is fun. And hits, home runs, the battle between pitcher and batter. And so we said, okay, uh, let's have you constantly creating your lineup then. And so one of the big things that gave you the feel of baseball, but very much divorced itself from any kind of simulation, is there is no lineup in bat flip. Instead, there's a hand, and you're choosing which batter you want at any given time based on their stats or based on their abilities, or sometimes you're comboing them. And so even though it's different than baseball in that you don't set a lineup and then move forward, it's has the spirit of baseball in that you're constantly creating the lineup as you play. And we sort of took that route with most of our decisions, saying, what is the essence of the experience here? And how can we
Hmm.
let you do that the most? And then what are all the like little annoying things that you either have to wait through or you don't have any power over? And let's get rid of that stuff. Um, and it really is a balancing act of trying to maintain the essence and the feel of something uh, while not necessarily wedding yourself to doing it exactly the same way. Like you were saying, no one wants to play a 3 hour baseball game, uh, or some do, but yeah, and that's sort of our philosophy, I guess.
I think that's a
Where
great
do you,
philosophy. Yeah.
yeah, and where do you draw the line for that? Because do you ever have any cases where you're like, this is something that's really core to baseball, and people are going to want this in the game, but it just doesn't fit, or vice versa, something that may not feel very baseball-ish, but you feel like it's going to add something to the game that might be missing. Like, where's that line for you when you're thinking about planning these out?
Um, I think generally speaking, I err towards making the board game work. I think if you make a board game that's fun, they'll forgive a lot of stuff. Uh, I think that first of all, you're never going to match it perfectly anyway. And the funny thing about it too is that you're creating a game based on a game because sports are games and they already have rules. Whereas if you're making a game that's worker placement, so there are no rules to how to run a farm, and so you can simulate it any way you want if you're going to play Agricola or something. Um, uh, and so I think generally speaking, we've said if the game isn't fun but it's realistic, the people maybe they'll appreciate that it's realistic, but if they're not having fun, who cares? And so we've sort of decided to just to lean into the anytime you're sort of stuck in that spot, do the thing that's better for the board game than what's better for the simulation.
Hmm.
Which
Yeah.
leads to the question: have you solved the boring part? Like, can baseball learn something from one of your games?
Uh,
Do you ever sit there and like watch a game and just be like, we could do this better?
uh, so I
Should
don't
I
know.
go get my Savannah Bananas gear and like put that on?
That's pretty cool. So there's actually I was listening to a podcast years ago, and it was an interview with there was this new thing in sports where there was a company where basically players could invest in themselves, and they get a lump sum of money up front, and then or I guess really this is companies investing in them, and the players would get a lump sum of money up front early on in their career before they've made a lot. but then the company gets a certain percentage of their profits as they go along. And they were interviewing the guy who ran this company, and he was saying that they have like all these algorithms and stuff, and they're very specific with the people that they want to target to be their clients, because they want it to be a good investment, because they're dishing out a bunch of money early on. But he was saying that he had an idea for baseball, and which I think is really cool, especially from a game design standpoint. And it's funny because that's not his area of expertise, but I was like, oh my God, it's such a good game design choice. And his idea was, he said, let's bring the 3-point shot to baseball. That basically, especially now that there's a computer rendering where they can track the ball and everything, and you've got the digital umpire and everything, say there's an area in the very middle of the strike zone that if you get the ball in there, it's worth 2 strikes instead of 1. And the results would be awesome. One, it usually pitchers try to like get it in the corners, try and stay away from like the meat of the zone, because they want batters not to hit it where it's easy.
Right.
And also, try trick a batter into swinging something that's not a strike. But that would give pitchers a reason to be like, okay, just challenge it right down the middle, or see if you can get away with one sometime and steal an extra strike. And by incentivizing the pitchers to pitch it down the middle, you also give the hitters more opportunities to get nice, juicy pitches to hit. And I just thought from a game design standpoint, it was like, oh, this could create a lot more action in the game, just by changing the rules a little bit. And I thought that was like a really, really cool thing, which doesn't relate to my games at all, but is neat.
It is neat. That is actually a really good thing, because just like 3-point shots in basketball, like spread the defense out, right? And make more of the floor an offensive threat. This is doing the exact same thing. It's incentivizing behaviors that it normally wouldn't be valuable or rewarded in baseball. And then it really puts everybody on notice. It's like you could be out in like 2 pitches and you're done, right? And that's phenomenal. Reward. Yeah, exactly. And I would love to see a game that just did that, just for funsies. Just
to see what it was like.
Bring a bunch of baseball players. Like, doesn't even have to be pros. Like decent baseball players, and play that game and see, is it exciting? Like, iterate it. Play test this, guys. Somebody play test this. Even with your beer league, your Saturday weekend beer league, just see if it works. I mean, obviously, you don't have all the technology to track whether it's exactly where it is, but.
But you could even do it like, because they have like those like nets that have like a little like cutout where you can get through the hole, extra strike or something, Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Trick hits.
That'd be really neat. Yeah.
So you talked about drawing inspiration from Magic, just from your own experience of love of the game. Do you ever draw from video games, seeing as how a lot of sports video games are really popular?
Yeah. No. I mean, I grew up, I played a lot of Madden growing up, and like in some NCAA basketball games, and actually less baseball than you would think. But I also video games never really got imprinted on my DNA, because my parents didn't let me have them until I was like 13 or something. And by then, like, all my friends had such better like hand-thumb coordination than me that I was just like, what's the point? So eventually I was able to get an N64, and I got Madden for it, and I could play by myself, or wasn't embarrassed by playing against other people. And I got okay at it. But and to this day, I feel like I'm missing out a little bit. My son's real into, he plays a lot of like Tears of the Kingdom and stuff, but also Smash Brothers. And I'm like, I'll play with him, but he just beats the crap out of me. So short answer is no. But when I would play those, but like even with Madden, I would play like franchise mode. And I design a game. I make a franchise team or a expansion team, and make new uniforms for them and stuff. And so I guess team building, for whatever reason, has just always been really appealing to me.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I did that when I was playing video games too.
I think it's
Yeah.
the like you said, the fantasy nature of combining things in a way that you feel expresses how you want the game to be,
Hmm.
right? So like wouldn't it be cool if you could line up all these all-stars from different eras and put them in one team? And that's why, that's why the All-Star Weekend or the all those games are just wonderful to watch in some ways, shapes, and forms. Other ways, they're just awful. Because are there rules? Not really. But the team management aspect of it, I think that even to me as somebody who doesn't love to play team sports, I enjoy that part of those games as well. And because you're right, it is just like drafting magic cards. Like I need to think about, okay, what is the I need a couple small creatures because if I just load up on, I don't know, 3 green, 4 colorless, and I'm playing a green red deck, it's gonna be a while before I can even cast those. So I
Hmm.
need some blockers up front. I need some small little weenies to like take the brunt of some damage early on. So gotta put a couple of those in. And then, oh wait a minute, I need some direct damage. And well, I'm
Hmm.
playing red green, so direct damage. Okay, what is that? Okay, that looks like, forked lightning or something, right? And so building the deck is like building a team when you're saying, okay, look, we have a real gap in our pitching staff. Our pitching is real bad. So how do I draft that, and what am I giving up from my salary cap, which might have an equivalent of like the 60 card Magic deck or the 100 card Commander deck or whatever, right? What am I giving up to get that better pitching into my team, right? So there's a lot of analogs, I think, between that management of a good baseball team or any sports team, and then your management of a magic deck. So I think that's a really good way to look at it. Have you ever um have you ever considered like, well, what's the next sport that you would like to do? If I know you said that Scorelander isn't always sports, and that we're supposed to absolutely ask you questions about Adventure Team Go at some point in the day. But if you were to do another sports game, what sport would it be and why?
We are actually in talks right now with a game designer that we might commission a game from, and uh, it's a volleyball game,
Yes.
which initially I would not think would be a great one just from a sales standpoint. Um,
Until
Sports is
you
so,
watch Haikyuu.
well. There you go. Uh, and so we may like play around with it to make it either sillier or put some wrinkles on it. But I don't have to. I guess we're not 100%. We haven't signed the contract yet, but we're in talks. So you don't tell everybody. Um,
It's between you,
but
me, and the
so I,
internet.
yeah, so I don't necessarily even have to say what would it be. I can tell you what it is going to be, probably. Um, if I was going to choose from sports that we have not started anything on, um, uh, well, being in the United States, the next obvious one would be basketball. I think basketball actually probably has gotten some decent games recently, even through Kickstarter. There's oh god, what's it called? There's some like pickup basketball game. Maybe it's called pickup. I can't remember.
It's called Pickup. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
which is
GameSlope
already in
released it.
Target, and it
Mhm.
kickstarted just like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Oh god, there was another one that came out.
Hoop Gods was another one.
You're on it, yes. Soup guys, that's one where you can like drink juice and you like
Yeah,
power
that's
up.
what you can juice
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I feel like basketball has actually sort of been represented. I don't feel there's a need for it in the same way that I felt there was a need. Not that there weren't baseball games, but there weren't baseball games that were sort of approaching it from the same way we did. I
Mhm.
feel like basketball has been pretty well represented. Um, so uh, I kind of think it would be neat to, and you could abstract it. You could make it, some sort of alien league or something. But
Mhm.
something about horse racing and running a stable
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
appealing to me. Raising horses and then racing them. Um, yeah, and you could do it like You could make it old timey and make it fantasy, and you're raising a stable of dragons to race, or you could make it space squids and you're racing space squids. But the skin doesn't necessarily matter. But something about having a stable, which again, of course, you're just building a team, right?
Hmm.
And raising them and building them up. That's appealing to me for some reason.
Yeah, I think there's always something appealing about building a better team than somebody else.
Hmm.
Because with a team, you have the chance that your combined total is better than their one awesome,
Hmm.
character or player or racehorse or
Hmm.
whatever. So, and there is something compelling about that, and the long haul of the leveling up of that of your
Hmm.
stable or the members of your stable, and the training aspects and the management of money and funding and all that kind of stuff is really, that's where a lot of the stories come from of for people who are deep into any sport. It's not just the game itself or the single match. It's like, but let me tell you about all this other stuff that happens behind the scenes that only the old heads know.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, yeah, and you've got fan bases who have suffered for years. So when you win a championship, it's not the culmination of a season, but it's the culmination of a decade or
we're building a
decades.
dynasty. Or
Yeah,
yeah, well,
exactly.
Hafiz and I are from the Toronto area, so you don't have to tell us about hockey and the
Yeah,
poor Maple Leafs.
long suffering
Long
Toronto
suffering
Toronto
Maple Leaf
adjacent
fans.
fans. Yeah, it's the running joke now.
Yeah.
But there's so many different strategies when you're building your team too, right? Like you could try and be like very methodical, slow and steady. You can try and swing for the fences. You could try and just like, hey, what if I could put Michael Jordan and LeBron James on the same team, but I can't really afford anything else. Can these two carry me?
Yeah, we call that
Um,
stars and scrubs. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so there's so many different approaches that you can take to this. Um, and you could pivot partway through as well too, which I think makes it really interesting because now you can
Hmm.
do the things that you wish that your sports team was doing, but they're not. So you can do it and see how it's going to play out. And then if
That's
you
what
do really
fantasy is
well,
all about,
yeah,
right?
Oh yeah.
can I
It's
do a
like,
better
yeah.
job than
Oh yeah.
the
Well,
real
we all think we can do a better job running the team than the real guys, right?
guy?
Like I feel like because okay, so I live. I grew up in Maryland and live pretty close to DC. So we've gotten the Capitals experience over the last
Yep.
decade plus. So that's been a okay. Um, but man, right, like the Orioles. When I grew up with the Orioles and Cal Ripken, and gosh, if I don't think every season like
That you could do better.
I think I could do better. I think I could. I think I could.
Just make you the GM. The Speaking of Baltimore, I don't know if you knew, but next year Gamma is in Baltimore.
Oh,
I did not know that.
very
Yeah,
That
so
is.
you'll be primed and ready to go. And of course,
Hmm.
there's also other really great cons for designers in that area. Unpub, the mothership, the Unpub Festival, I think it's called now,
Yeah, it's coming
happening in
in
the
a couple
next
weeks, isn't it?
couple weeks. Yeah, that's in the Baltimore area as well, right? So if you're local to DC, Baltimore, Maryland, stuff,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely go
and
check it out.
we may actually be there. So we'll
Hey, excellent.
TBD. We'll see.
Yeah, I won't be there. Hafiz, will you be there?
probably not, but
Yeah, but it's
one day.
it's a great it's a really great time if you like designing and playtesting. It's like a perfect place to go for the weekend.
Which wouldn't you know what I do?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. There you
You know,
go.
we were talking about long suffering franchises and just the opportunity to get a dynasty. You created your own dynasty. You have Bat Flip Dynasty. So, can you tell us a little bit about that and how did that evolve from the original game to the version that you've created,
Yeah.
that you've titled
Um,
Dynasty?
so, uh, like I said, there's a point at which when we were developing the original Bat Flip that we realized like uh, the economic aspect of this just does not correspond to the playing a game of baseball aspect of it. And so in Bat Flip, the original Bat Flip, you're playing a single game of baseball. We try to condense it. You play a 3 inning game. It's very much an act and react kind of game. I play hitter, and you respond to it with a defender, and activate abilities and stuff. Um, and uh, and we just took like every kind. There are no restrictions on team building or anything. You just play your guys. There's no cost or anything. But especially in gaming, and especially in, like in Eurogaming and stuff, like uh, economics is, I mean, most games are just simulations of economics in some fashion. And I really thought that baseball uh, offered a chance to bring that aspect of gaming uh, to the sport. And uh, for me, and again, this is just going to be sort of a broken record a little bit. Like um, the things that are cool about baseball are not like, I don't think like people are like, oh man, I wish I could work for a baseball team so I could come up with a good marketing strategy, or or like, oh man, I really hope we get a good land deal for the stadium. Um, and when people, no, I'm sure there are people who want to play Sim City or something that would like those things, and there actually are some good games that have come out that get more into that kind of nitty gritty stuff. But I was like, if you love baseball, you want to do the economic part of baseball. Really, it's, I want to get some players, and I want to get them for a good price, and I want to hold on to the good ones, and I want to dump the bad ones, and I want to grow some players. Um, and so what I did actually is I started with this deep fantasy league that I'm in, and I outlined all the phases that happen in that game, and which more or less correspond to what happens in the regular baseball season anyway, and off season.
Mhm.
And then I sort of just started taking out stuff that seemed like too complicated, or just too much uh, little like nitty gritty things.
Like math and
Yeah, no one wants,
calculating
no,
and like
yeah. Um, and so we boiled it down to, all right, the things you want in a game that it makes you feel like the general manager is, definitely you want to have a budget. And it's a closed economy in this game. Your budget stays the same for the entire game, and you can commit it differently each season. Um, and what you want, a manager, and you definitely want some kind of draft to happen, because people love drafting, and I love drafting. In fact, I think, yes, even the game that we're going to publish this year, Adventure Team Go, which is not a sports game, has a draft. Uh, So I guess we're showing our hand there. Then you have to have some way to measure whether your team is good. And we want you to have some agency there, but in all sports, there's going to be some kind of randomness as well. Um, and so we came up with a dice system that you had. There's two phases to the season, where the first half of the season you roll dice, and those are your dice, and you can place them onto icon spots on your cards. And if you fill up a card with and match the icons, that player produces wins. Um, and so you start off by assigning the few dice that you have, and then there's another phase where you're drafting dice and you're competing with the other players to get dice that you all have communally rolled, to finish off your team. So you're trying to decide, okay, which of these guys is gonna not only just be good and like provide wins, but you have to look at, well, what does it cost to sign them? What does it cost to hold them? Then you have to ask yourself, okay, what else do they contribute, so that they'll have abilities? And the way you know how many dice you get is based on your squad. They also contribute dice, and they contribute different amounts of dice, either to the shared pool that you draft from, or just for you. And so we also like the idea of having um, the value of a player not just be the amount of wins they can produce, um, but also other things you have to take into account, like how many dice, what kinds of dice, what's their ability, does their ability uh, combo off with other players that you have, and that still is, very. I mean, it's a very board game thing. Really, it's a tableau builder is what it is, and it's just you sort of shift out your tableau when their contracts get too bloated.
but that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That's very cool. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So I know it's not a sports game, but you told us that you're releasing Adventure Team Go. So let's talk about it. So tell us why Adventure Team Go, why it's not a sports game. What is it actually all about?
Um, it took a bunch of inspiration from Bat Dynasty, and me and my partner David, we had sort of uh, I don't know, like a little sort of crisis. What are we doing moment? Like we've been started this company. Like, is it really like, are we really accomplishing what we think we were going to accomplish? Um, and we were bemoaning to each other about, oh man, it's like it's nice that like we're one of the few people who are doing like a lot of sports games. But at the same time, we're learning that it really is a niche in the
Mm-hmm.
board gaming community anyway. And there are plenty of people who like them, but you're never going to have a big wide appeal with a sports game, or so we decided. And so in that conversation, I was telling them like, yeah, like the mechanics we're building out for Batflip Dynasty, like really like there's nothing that inherently makes that have to be a sports game. Um, you could make it you're putting together the crew of a pirate ship, and like instead of accruing wins, you're accruing gold or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can reskin it pretty easily. And then he said, well, why don't you? And I said, and
Well,
I
if you love it, why don't you marry it?
yeah, exactly. Um, and the answer was, well, because we bought the art already. And also we wanted to make that game.
Yeah, sure.
But I did use that as a jumping off point, and part of it was trying to get our hand on the pulse of the industry. I mean, obviously, high fantasy is really popular.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of an evergreen theme, right?
exactly, it's evergreen, and so we want to do something that's as not niche as possible. And of course, there's risk there that then there's a much bigger pool of things that are fantasy related.
Right.
So you need to stick out or have your unique wrinkle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we sort of thought that we had to take a shot at it. So I used the idea of putting together a team, which is the crux, and it's very much a theme of our our game lineup, um, and said, okay, well, what are other circumstances where you might have to put together a team? And what we ended up thinking was the way to go was, oh, well, like putting together a party of adventurers like you might have in a role playing game in D&D or
Mm-hmm.
something. Um, and what makes one group of adventurers more successful than another? Um, so there is a very similar draft in Adventure Team Go where you're drafting your team of adventurers, and better adventurers do cost more gold to bring to your team. But from there, we took it in a very different place, and actually, it
Right.
ended up being a mechanic we're actually really proud of, where for each stage of your quest, you'll have a challenge, and for each challenge, you put your squad of adventurers in a formation, and based on where they are in their formation, they contribute different skills or
Mm.
abilities. And so, what you're trying to do is say, okay, do I want a team that specializes in something? So when that thing comes up, I just like pound my way through it. Um, do I want a team where they have just a nice broad skill set? And then you also have to look at, okay, well, if I have a bunch of guys who are really good in the lead of the formation, well, that's great, but only one person can be in the lead of the formation
Right.
at any given
Yeah.
time. So it also makes you it becomes sort of a puzzle, really.
Mm-hmm.
And you redo the puzzle for each of the encounters. Um,
That's really cool.
and yeah, that was what's funny is that actually came really late in the process. So now it's
Oh,
sort of the core of
interesting.
the game
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because we knew we needed, just like with Batflip Dynasty, we like, okay, you've got a team. How do you tell if they're good or not?
Hmm.
How do you
Right.
tell if it's a good team or not? And we had this whole thing where they would contribute abilities and contribute skills, but that it just felt very the same every time you would hit an encounter, like because you knew exactly what they were going to contribute.
Hmm.
Um, and the other thing we added that it's early on, it was very deterministic, it felt like, and we wanted to sort of pull away from that. And so then, as is common in games, to make things less deterministic, we added
Yeah,
dice.
dice. Of
Yeah,
course you
of
did.
course.
And I mean,
Yeah,
it goes with the D&D ish stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it fits the feel for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so now instead of if you have one combat icon and it requires one combat icon, it's like, oh, the combat icon gets you one die, and
Mm,
then you still have to meet whatever the skill check is
right.
to pass. And it's looking pretty good. We've got all this art done, and we're actually going back and forth right now, trying to get the card frames to look right. But we're very excited.
That's very cool. So, like, if you had, like, again, a barbarian, you'd wanna put him probably at the front, where he's gonna be able to maul things. But if you had, like, an archer, the archer might go at the back because, while he might be able to fight somewhere else, he might get bonuses at the back or something like that. Is that how it works? Or is it
A
position
little bit,
choice?
but really, what we try to do is create a series of encounters that weren't necessarily all combat oriented.
Oh, okay, cool. I love
Um,
it.
so there's some times where it's like, oh, you know what? We really need someone who's in touch with the spirit world for this one. So let's get
Sure.
someone spiritual up front. Or like, oh, this one's going to require some brains and some tinkering. Let's put our artificer in the front so that he can, assemble a contraption that will solve the problem. Um, or sometimes it's just saying like, hey, you just need to be, it doesn't matter what you're good at, but be really great at something to get past this challenge. And then you're like, okay, well, do I have enough people who are all good at the same thing in order to make that
Yeah,
happen? Can I get them in an arrangement where they all can activate that ability?
that's cool. Very, very neat. And is that coming to Kickstarter later this year? Is that the
It is
idea?
indeed. It's coming out in. I think we're shooting for like the very beginning of October.
Okay, so Q3, Q4.
Yep.
Awesome. So Adventure Team Go, Scorelander
Adventure Team
Games,
Go. Yep.
right? And it's not about sports, everybody. It's just got a team in it. I
Yes, sir.
like that your games are team based but still competitive.
Oh yeah, yeah, and there. So one little element, and this is actually new. So generally speaking, we haven't done anything co-op at this point, but there are some challenges in Adventure Team Go where if you're there at the same time as another player, then the challenge is so big that you guys have to work together to get over it. Even though ultimately
Mm,
you are competing to be the first one to complete the quest, for this moment, we better work together, or else we're not even going to get there.
That's interesting. It reminds me of something that's completely off topic but hilarious. Um, the old fire departments, way back in many cities, used to not be owned by the city. It would just be independent troops, and if they showed up at a fire, it was whoever showed up first that got paid. But then you would get these groups that showed up at the same time, and instead of putting the fire out, they would fight one another. Building is burning down, and whoever was left standing at the end of the fight got to put the fire, whatever was left of the building, out and got paid. Um,
that's
you
ridiculous. That's
you didn't
awesome
take
though.
in that direction. You have them working together rather than fighting one another. But as
Well,
you were saying
there
that,
are also so we do have the other thing where sometimes we're, and it depends from encounter to encounter. There's somewhere if you end up there at the same time as someone else, there only one can get through,
mm,
and so you are forced to fight much earlier than you would otherwise.
Which is another play on the Courlander. It's the Highlander now. It's like there can only
That's
be
exactly right.
one, only be one team. There you go. I think there's a new Highlander series coming out.
Is that true?
Just
that
just
that would be
just so
cool.
you know.
All right,
That
take
would be
that one away.
cool. Um, Before we wrap on the sports thing, we were chatting a little bit beforehand about how sports games seem like they would lend themselves really well to this idea of creating a legacy game.
Mm.
And we just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Is that something that you've thought of or considered for any of the games that you've created? And also, why legacy with sport? Is this something that you think could do well?
Um, yeah. Um, and so with our game, and really, Backflip Dynasty is taking that legacy concept that you've built something, and you keep coming back to it, and is trying to just sort of condensed it into one play session. Um, but I can't think of any reason why. There's nothing mechanically that says you couldn't just keep coming back session after session, and next time I play Backflip Dynasty, I have the same players that I finished with last time, and then we play another 4 seasons or 5 seasons or something. And uh, I do think that sports is a great example of where a narrative takes place over long periods of time and discrete periods of time.
Hmm.
That if a
Hmm.
play session is a season, then uh, each play session has its own identity, but is part of a larger narrative as well.
Mm.
And
Rivalries can form between players. It's just like, oh,
Hmm.
Scott and I hate one another. We are like water and oil. But then my team starts to suck after a while. So this competition, this rivalry disappears, and now
yeah,
it's
so
you
it's a
get Sen.
one
Yeah,
sided rivalry, exactly.
yeah. Or you switch it now.
Yeah.
Sen is your arch nemesis, and a different
Yes.
narrative and a different experience comes up that we can laugh about and joke about. We're just like, yeah, yeah.
Well, and I think it has, especially if you bring the same people back, it almost has like the same appeal of like an inside joke. You know, it's a shared
Exactly.
experience that you
Mm.
keep getting to come back to, and you can keep referencing. You know, oh yeah, remember back when you had that player 4 game sessions ago. Um,
And maybe you have them now because picked
yeah,
them up for
exactly.
cheap.
Yeah. Or I'm the best player here. Or you haven't won anything in like 6 seasons. You've been
Yeah,
resting on your
what are you
laurels
talking
from the beginning of the league. Yeah.
If you make this game, you have to call it, and it has to be about baseball because it doesn't work otherwise. You'd have to call it Inside Baseball, because inside jokes, right? And
Oh,
then
there, yeah,
and
and obviously the famous book Inside Baseball. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love the concept of the discrete seasons as well because there's so much stuff that happens in all pro sports between
Hmm.
seasons, right? That the people who aren't so interested in it don't get to see, but people who love it, like they follow it. They go to spring training. They they love it. And you could simulate a lot of that kind of stuff with a few rolls of dice or some card
Hmm.
draw. And that would be super fascinating because you could historically track it,
Oh
and
yeah,
say, yeah, this is something that happened between the 1994 and 1995 season, which changed everything.
yeah.
Like, anybody who's big on any sports remembers certain draft years that were,
Mhm.
had the big graduating class, or they remember, the years of the lockout and the strikes and how that changed the game, or they remember the years when certain rules, even uniform changes and things like that affect how the sport is perceived or was actually played. And I think that all that kind of stuff is just really, really neat. Um, Even if you're not a big fan of the sports, the narrative that can be played or that can be carried out throughout that whole world, or that little microcosm that you're creating is fascinating to me, and I think it's really cool. So
I can also
I
see
I, I would love to see it.
Yeah, and I can also see new mechanisms being introduced over time, right? Like we
Hmm.
talked about the 3-point line. So if it's a
Mm.
basketball game, which I'm kind of privy to because I'm making one, like, maybe you start off and that doesn't exist and now you introduce it and it changes up which players that you have are relevant, and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
Maybe now, yes, defense gets prioritized a little bit more in this season. And so that scorer that you have, he's a giant liability.
Well, it's just like how the meta changes in Magic all the time, depending on the
Hmm.
card sets that are released. I obviously real world sports are a little bit slower than Magic because we can arbitrarily make up rules in Magic, but there are still arbitrary rules that are made up in sports. So if you're talking about like volleyball, my family's a volleyball family, so my brother-in-law played for like the provincial team, and played at the college level, and all his friends are like international level players, and so like I knew about like when the sport changed from having no such position as a libero to all of a sudden having a new specialty position, right? And that was just wild. It changed the game entirely. And then
I'm
they changed the scoring rules where you scored no matter, like, if the other team causes a fault, you scored. If you caused them to cause a fault, you scored. And so the game was just faster because the game was so perceived as being slow, right? Anyway, so there's all these things that happened in the last like 20, 30 years of volleyball that have changed the sport for the better in most cases. In most
no,
cases,
and correct me
and
if
you
I'm
can do that kind
wrong.
of thing, right?
Remind me if I'm wrong. So what you're talking about? It used to be that you could only score if you were serving, right? Is that
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
And now you can score
And you have to
on
side out to score, right?
right.
Everything. But
Interesting.
it does make the game faster because the games used to take almost double the time.
Yeah.
And so you can play like best of five or best of three really quite quickly, which makes it a better game for most people, right? Because best of one isn't great for a game that is as fast as volleyball.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was too fast for best of one, but not fast enough for like best of three. Anyways, that's so now it's
And
fast. Best of five.
I think that and I because I never think about volleyball. I'm going to be dead honest, but I think volleyball is maybe the most underrated sport, both from a viewership and a playing standpoint.
It is
Uh,
really, really fun to watch when you know what they're doing, especially because the rules, like, it's like, no, you have to do these things and you can't do these other things. And it's a really cool sport. There, I'm hoping there actually is a high Q game coming out next, maybe end of the year, middle of this year. So just look out for that as well.
I will.
If you want to play a volleyball game with anime characters. So
Ooh,
yeah, because and volleyball has a very big international following. It's bigger in other countries than it is even in the states. Like the scholarship potential in the states is okay, but it's not like basketball or football,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah, yeah. I had a buddy I grew up with, and his family was from Taiwan, and there was a big Taiwanese population where I grew up,
mm.
and I was like a senior in high school before I found out that he was like playing this really competitive club volleyball in this Taiwanese league for years. I was like, how did I not know that like this like underground league
was
existed?
he was he playing was he playing 8 man?
Maybe I don't know.
Okay, because that is literally like the underground Asian volleyball league in North America.
Oh, really? It might
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been. I
yeah.
don't know.
It's like you play on concrete. It's not like it's street volleyball,
Whoa.
and it's for people who are short or genetically have a propensity to be short. That's probably a better way to put that. Because there's some tall Asians out there. There's a billion
There's
of
some.
those. So
There's some.
My knees hurt just when you said they're playing volleyball on concrete. Like
yeah,
I
it's like
felt that.
street ball, right?
Yeah.
But volleyball.
Yeah, but basketball, you're not doing as much diving. I mean,
Yeah.
ugh.
That was my reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'm thinking about my elbows.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting.
he
So
actually
volleyball
towers
is
above
is an
me. I should
excellent
mention.
sport.
I'm 5'7", and he's like 6'2". So
Yeah, there you go. So in terms of what's next for you, we're looking at Adventure Team Go in Q3, Q4 on
yeah.
Kickstarter. You have Bat Flip out now currently.
Bat Flip and Bat Flip Dynasty can be ordered from our website.
Perfect.
Um, and we're producing Football U, which we didn't even talk about. The
Oh,
premise of that
right.
one.
Yeah.
That's the one we just kickstarted in the fall, and we're just finalizing the files with the manufacturer right now so that it can go to press. And that will be available on our website eventually. The premise of that one, very similar. You're running a football team over a college football team over 3
Hmm.
seasons and trying to rise in the national rankings. The mechanics are completely different. There is a draft mechanism, but a different
Has
one.
to.
And but what's cool about this one that is different than Batflip Dynasty is in Batflip Dynasty, just sort of how in baseball they've started to reduce players down to their wins above replacement, their WAR. So you can say, oh, a certain player is worth how many wins. In Football U, we actually have you play games. We just cut it down to 3 game seasons, and you play each of the other players, and each game is reconciled with a single roll of the dice, which was the first time we were able to sort of get make games and the running the team thing happen in the same game. So we're really excited about that aspect of it, and having those head to head moments gives it some fireworks and some rivalry feelings that you don't get from Battlefield Dynasty, where really you're maybe doing some hate drafting here and there, but mostly you're focused on just building your own thing. So having one where you get to interact with other people, we're really excited about that one.
That's cool. That's really
awesome.
cool.
We actually have Gabe coming on the show in a couple of weeks, so we'll
do you?
Yeah.
Oh, is he the designer?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Gabe Barrett is.
You got to mention that
designer.
stuff. Yeah, there you go. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, because I had reached out to him because he published a baseball game last year, and I was just reaching out about some cross promotions, and he was like, "Hey, I only produce 1-player games, but I've been sitting on this football game for years. But you want to give it a look?" And next thing you knew, we were making it.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool. All right, so I guess we don't really have to talk about Football U now. We'll talk about it with Gabe in the next couple of weeks.
There you go. Yeah, and he knows a lot more about football than I do anyway. Being a former wide receiver that he was.
All right, so everybody out there, if you'd like to chat with me some more, you can find me on Blue Sky at Senfeng Lim. And Hafiz, you are where?
I'm at Printer Ink Games. Should be able to say that. Printer Ink Games on Instagram, and mainly
Instagram. Mainly there. You can reach both of us at Maple Syrup on all the things. And Scott, you're at ScorelanderGames.com. So everybody out there, if you want to check out Batflip Dynasty, and get up to date on Football U and the upcoming Adventure Team Go, check it out there. Sign up. Is there a newsletter or anything that they can sign up for there?
We do have a mailing list.
Perfect.
We don't try to bother people very often, but we'll let you know if we have a Kickstarter starting or something like that.
You know what? We bother people a lot, and it works. No, but in a good way. So we'll talk about what we're doing. We'll give them because Off the Page Games basically makes games about comic books. So we often talk about the comics that we're reading, the shows that we're watching, the games that we're playing, and there's enough of us that work within the little ecosystem that we always have 2 or 3 reviews, plus the upcoming games and the progress on the current games, and then upcoming games in terms of when's the next Kickstarter for this thing. And then also talking about our convention presence and things like that. So where you can find us next. So even just a little thing like that, quarterly or every 2 months.
Yeah, that's good advice. That really is good advice.
That kind of thing can be a really nice, connection without seeming overbearing, right?
Yeah. That is good advice.
And if you want to help keep the lights on here, you can go to patreon.com/MapleSyrup. I don't think anybody's been there for years, but that's okay. And hey, Scott, I told you before, we warned him, everybody. You have to give some final advice. So what, sir, is your final advice?
All right, so I'm going to give you 2, actually. So one corresponds to exactly what you were just talking about. That was the biggest learning curve for me getting into the industry, is that marketing and community building is just as important, and honestly maybe more important to your success than designing the games themselves. Obviously, you have to create something that people want to come back to and that they like. But if nobody knows about it, then they can't enjoy it. And I think that was our biggest learning curve, because I've always felt pretty confident in our game design, but learning how to create an audience and reach out to a community, that was a big part of it for us.
This isn't Field of Dreams, Scott. You can't just build it and expect
they will come. No, you can build it and then your mom will back it, and that's it.
Did your mom actually back your games?
Yeah.
Go, mom. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, I had to take her to the website so she could find it and
But
show her how
after
to push
that,
the
then
buttons and
yes.
everything. But yeah, and after I made her do it, she did it. The other piece of advice is more of just like of a mindset thing, and I think that for anyone who's doing something creative or just doing something independently, true for creating content too. I think that imposter syndrome is just like really rampant, and everyone else seems like they know what they're doing. And um, I think that people should just let go of that imposter syndrome as much as they can. It's not always possible, but uh, I think the more you give yourself permission to put yourself out there and feel like, you know what, I do have something legitimate to add to the conversation or to the community, that I think people just should be a lot easier on themselves and give themselves
Hmm.
more credit. That's all.
And that, my friends, is why the arts is important. Because that sounds like something that comes from a theater kid.
And I was one. It's
Yeah,
true.
there you go. All right, Hafiz, who do we got here next week?
Well, we have Chris Stone, and actually, that's a great transition. We're going to be talking about how amazing the board game community is, how supportive it is, and how it's very different from many other spaces that tend to be competitive when there's a tight market. Whereas here, it's a tight market for board games. We talked about that, especially sports games. But everyone is so friendly and helpful and wants to help each other succeed. You gave us an extra bit of advice when you didn't have to.
Right?
Two for
There
one.
you go. Excellent, everybody. So, thank you very much, Scott, for joining us today. Thank you, Deadpan, IB Jeeper, and everybody else who's watching. Next week, apparently, we're going to talk about the community and how awesome you all are. That'll be fun. So, join us here next week when we have Chris Stone. And then I think you mentioned that there's other people that people might be interested. So, Gabe.
Gabe is coming up, and this is a little random. I just got invited to a high school because they are getting their grade 10 students to create escape rooms based
Awesome.
on history. Uh,
Hey.
and I'm going to be one of the judges. And so I'm just going to chat with the teacher to see, depending on how things go, if they might be interested to chat about how did they go about making their end of unit project, having
Yeah.
students make a history escape room.
Love it.
Super
Love it.
That's awesome.
Bunch of
Yeah.
educators here, so we all love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
How old are the students?
They are grade 10, they would be about 16 years old. So I won't have
So
any pictures, but the teacher
no,
should be able to talk about
but
it.
I mean, yeah. So would love to get the teacher. It'd be super cool if the kids could come on and talk. But I get that maybe that's not going to be kosher. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, cool, good stuff, everybody. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. See you later.
Everyone.